Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unleash Her. I'm Roberta, in case you don't know me, and I'm your host for today's podcast. And I'm so excited to be here. I'm glad that you're here. And I cannot wait to introduce my friend, Susanne Bombach. I got it?
Yes,
Okay. Hey, everyone. I've been practicing that. Okay. Susanne, hi. Welcome. Thank you so much for being on here.
thank you for having me.
Oh, it's so much my pleasure. And I believe we met probably like a couple of years ago, and I was just very intrigued. I loved hearing you speak, and you have such a story. You're so inspiring. And so if you just want to share some things about you, whatever you want,
Yeah.
it's go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. So we met by Kathleen's community, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
I went into Millionaire
Yeah.
because I was very much drawn to her, the way she speaks, carries herself and everything. So the background story. So I'm starting now from starting back then.
It's wherever you want.
Okay, so let's start. I'm now 40. I insist that women become better with age. We're never old, so we say young. This is what I just, felt like saying. I have grown up in East Germany to a family of farmers and engineers and smiths. So the village where I grew up was one of the smallest ones. It's about 400 people. You don't even find it sometimes on the map. Like
Wow.
in the evening at 10 p.m., they would close off all the lights on the street. You don't see anything. You have beavers walking there and raccoons. It's like nice. I was born into, I choose to say today from perception to family that did best what they could,
Yes.
even though it was crappy. Like we have, we have a generation of people that they either had self-image issues, suicidal, eating disorders, addictions in the family. Adding to that, it was East Germany. So in East Germany, you didn't get proper therapy. Like it was very different 46 years ago. You had either the parties, the political parties, or you had church. But of course, it couldn't cater to mental issues. So my father was about 24 when I was born. My mom was 20. And I was already on the way. So I must have been 5 months or something like aroundish. I believe my father was having issues with alcohol already very early on. My mom just came out of a dysfunctional home as well. So my grandparents, who I love very much, but they couldn't have, let's say, a proper personal development as we today have. Like social media is just flooding us with quotes. You have books, you have like, this is the best time ever for personal development, but it wasn't back then. There wasn't resources. It was all censored. You had people spying on you if you read something that you cannot, like, there was a lot of issues at this generation. I was the firstborn daughter, and I experienced very quick that being confident as a girl isn't easy, because I saw my mom, she never lived fully her life. She often mentioned wanting to kill herself or leaving him. She never managed it. And I always paid attention how her self-image would shrink the longer she stays with him. He wasn't doing crazy stuff like beating us up, but he wasn't emotionally available to anybody. He would only speak with me in a normal way when he was drunk. And most of the time he would be away. And so like I learned very, very early to be careful, how to come home, always kind of tuning my intuitive senses towards my family. What type of situation do I find when I come home? Now, from the outside, of course, it was ideal, conditions. Like everything was green, a farmer's home, which was built in the 17th century. You would have thought, like it's ideal. I was with my dolls. I was reading books, played with Barbies, and in East Germany you couldn't get the Barbie, so I was so drawn to Barbie because she represented for me like the fancy house, nice dresses. From Christmas, back then, we have the church 2 houses next to our home. So every year I was in church choir. And Christmas Eve I was always running home. And in my imagination, I felt like I'm running home and I see my home totally renovated and clean. And my mom stands there with nail polish and a dress and everybody's happy. Father not drunk, which he was every year. And every year the house was not tidy and my mom was sad. And so I retreated very quick into, let's say, food and toys and fairy tales. So that was like my safe haven. My younger brother, he coped in his way with this. He was 2 years younger, but this was like a heavy burden for me. My role from early childhood on, and I think it was never properly communicated, but when we say a self-image is formed between the first and, well, let's say up to 6 years, where we can't really differentiate, what goes on an emotional level or on an intellectual level. I took on the role, or I was assigned the role to protect my mom and to keep sanity at home. And that is difficult, Roberta. It's really difficult. I couldn't, I don't know when I stopped fully expressing myself, but for example, I wasn't allowed to sing at home. My father got mad when I was singing at home, and I loved singing, especially, like the 80s music. I was drawn so much to movies like My Fair Lady, and I always wanted to have a mentor like Mr. Higgins, even though he was so nasty to Elisa. But, I wanted to have somebody that can see more in me. I developed very quick atopic dermatitis. So I felt like, I didn't want to have people looking at me because my skin was so bad. And I used to cross the street. I didn't want to have people look at me because I felt so ugly. This is something about the self-image, like you might have a pretty face and atopic dermatitis, and other people might say, I see beautiful features in you, but you see only your let's say, chronic condition. In school, I learned very much to shy away from contacts with other people, and I was more of an outsider because I learned very quickly that I have to be, let's say, be careful about people, not express yourself too much. I was scared that people come home to my home and see, how things are. I had friends over, but there was constant comparison, and pretty early, I think I used to be skinny up till the age of 14. And then I started to develop an obsessive compulsive eating disorder to cope with everything. So then sweets became my home. They were my home before that, but then it kicked in full gear. I gained must have been between 60, 75 pounds in a year. And instead of, finding help, it was more like, a hazard to talk about. I didn't want to burden my mom. It was many things going on at the same time, but I always tried to make it not difficult on other people. I always paid attention on how people feel. I could read the energy of people very quick. And with my father, I did communicate him a few times, like, can you find yourself help? But it was brushed off. And honestly speaking, I was also scared to talk to him because he was, number one, very tall. And when I, as a kid, mentioned to him, for example, that I have difficult understanding math, He would sit down with me and threaten me and beat me up and cursing me and tell me all different things. And this is why I feel it's so important that especially women grow up and kind of get into connection with like the femininity. Can you express yourself? How has been the relationship with male role models? My safe haven was always a best friend that I had from our neighborhood. She was the daughter of our reverend, so like 4 kids in East Germany, which was like, wow. And they didn't have a television, they played with each other, it was normal there, and I was very drawn to that. They seemed different, I don't know, like totally different.
Wow.
But my father could never say, you did something well, or I'm proud of you. It was more of, it was more a reflection of the inner talk that he had, but he couldn't take it out on him. He took it out on us. And I kept going, but it becomes different when we work on ourselves. So pretty much later, I think by the age of 7, yeah, I decided to become Jewish. So pretty early, I felt like this is my home. This is where I want to be. Very, very much. But I thought every Israeli is laughing, but I was thinking every Jew in Israel is living in a tent and they have like these long beards. And when I was in Israel, I felt like, no, this is not true. But, you know, when
Oh,
I learned a couple of degrees in school, like I have, I finished school. And when I decided I was gonna train for 2 social degrees, like the first is social assistant, when I became a therapist, didn't like it. Went to Munich to be a babysitter for one of the most famous and fanciest and wealthiest families. I've never seen something like that. Like I
wow.
really manifested her. I just signed up when I'm seeking for a job because I wanted to leave to Israel. And they had this ad, but somebody's seeking a nanny that does sports. And I just wrote them, sent my CV, and I came in and I was like, whoa. She was the nephew. No, her uncle is Gunther Sachs, who was a very famous guy, very wealthy guy, who was together with Brigitte Bardot.
Whoa.
And I'm standing there, I'm like, oh my God. And then, I worked for 1.5 years there. Then I left to Israel to become Jewish. Had my 5 kids when we came back in 2010 to Germany. Meanwhile, I'm raising my kids alone. I had obtained a few degrees here in Germany, and I did some therapy after my divorce and even before. But it was only let's say, the start that enabled me to embrace coaching. I think when we have stuff going on in life, it will always be, you start out with therapy to get a proper, like proper basement. And then in 2019, I started checking out stuff, Louise Hay, who has a very gentle, warm, and kind attitude. I enrolled into Overeaters Anonymous to take care of my overeating. So that was a connection with spirituality. And one day I happened to have a hunch who said, you have to check out Bob Proctor. In 2016, when I saw him in Israel, in a bookstore, like I had the book, The Secret in my hand, I felt like this guy is weird. I watched the movie. I was like, I don't like him. What is he doing? Like kissing his hand. What is wrong with that guy? But I signed up
Yeah.
to be in the 1-year mentorship.
Yeah.
And I actually invested the money that I had from half of the house that we sold due to the divorce to invest in me. I thought I can do my boobs, I can get my butt done, but I can also do something for me. And so I did this. And within a month, Bob was doing the 5-day workshop, and my intuition kicked in and it said, you have to become a coach. And Roberta, with me, having been so shy all the time with people, not wanting to express myself, I felt like, wow, are you crazy? I mean, like, you're going out on social media, me, the one, previous stories where I wanted to hide myself. And so I signed up. My kids were thrilled that I all the time invested in myself. I always did something for me, Roberta. Even when I started out, the beginning of separating from him, it was roughly a half a year where I wanted to go to a women's shelter and we didn't find space. So like there has been stuff, but I always made sure as a what we call single mom, which is ridiculous,
Right.
to eat healthy, to do sports, to read a book. There's so many resources available today for free. And then I started out with PGI and I got very much into this. I have to prove myself. I have to be one of these fancy coaches and, but in the end, within 1.5 years, I understood that I actually maybe became PGI for me. Roberta, I did it for me because I wanted to bring something else into our family. It was the first time ever that I invested such a chunk of money. I mean, previous, yes, I became a diver. I snorkeled with humpback whales. I went to internships with marine biologists in Portugal. Yes, this is beautiful investment, but like chunky investment of, let's say 30K, that was for me a new one, and it was opening the door for me. So the conversation started with my kids now then about self-image. And I was able to reflect on what goes on with my father in a different way. To, like when you have this material, there is a way to look at this with a grace, with an understanding, with I don't want to say knowledge, but it's different. We can use perception to kind of, be less emotional about it and still, compassionate. And so a lot of things happened through this material, a lot. And now last month, almost, my father passed away suddenly. We didn't have a contact, like it wasn't a close contact that we had. He was suddenly in the emergency room and stuff happened pretty quick. And he died in the hospital. I didn't want to go to the emergency room and see how he suffers. He was already unconscious and in coma. But my mom told me, you don't have to rush here because it's about 4 hours to drive there. You can also tell him on the phone. I would hold the phone to him and you can say what you have to say. And I just told him that I love him and there's nothing to forgive him about. And that is thanks to this work, Roberta. I choose not to hold grudges against him because we just don't know what goes on. We have no idea. We just don't know anything. And what's interesting, ever since he passed away, I personally choose to believe that he sends me very beautiful sunsets. He's communicating with me. It's like the energy. You can tell when this happens. And then I just thought, one day I was chatting with somebody on LinkedIn who helps people with alcohol and with mental illness. And he said something very interesting. And he told me, I think, and actually, that your father has given you the gift to become a coach. And that is deep. It's really deep. Yeah, I think it was intended to be this way. God kind of circle twisted, rearranged everything in a way that healing can come into the family to maybe recorrect some tiny courses by introducing something new into the family. I didn't like how it was done at all. Roberta, I always wanted to have a father that is just, behaving towards me like a princess, but maybe my soul has chosen that this has to be my way. It sucked. It sucked big time, Roberta.
I'm sorry.
And so we had then the funeral. And on this funeral, it was weird because I wasn't at the cemetery next to the church for many, many years. I think the last time I was maybe 15, 14. And you stand already in a village that used to be my place, my dreams. And I used to go with my dolls into the forest or, in the field and play with them. And that was my safe haven, especially after reading Anne of Green Gables, when I was hooked on, the idea of being a girl, at least outside. But when I was standing on the funeral, I was so mad.
Mm.
You see the funeral. Everybody is there inside the pit with their dreams, aspirations. Then, my father was cremated, and I feel like what am I supposed to mourn somebody that wasn't even there? Like, really?
Mm.
They talked about family and family life. And I was standing there like, what is he talking about?
Mm.
But, it's so strange. And then you stand there and you feel like, inner child, mad, inner teenager, sky high mad.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I felt peace because it had to happen this way. It had to. It had to. And, if not for this work, I don't know where I would be today. I hoped so many years that I would heal him.
Mm.
It
Mm.
was my burden for 46 years. I have to heal him. I have to protect my mom. And then all of a sudden, on the cemetery, I did realize it was never my job. It wasn't. It was not intended. And I think maybe the whole journey was never about healing either. Because when you feel something has to be healed, then it's broken. Nobody is broken. My father was not broken. And maybe there wasn't even a problem either. It's just God sometimes weaves very, very weird stories that we cannot comprehend with our logical mind.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe in this moment when he was kind of, laid to rest or however you call this, I felt peace. That's okay. And so then nothing can be actually broken.
Wow. So beautifully said. Oh my goodness. I'm sure that everyone listening is just we can see your strength. And sometimes I just say myself, I'm like, don't I don't know that I want to be this strong sometimes, we take on a lot, but you really took on a lot. And it's so beautiful the way that you sorted through everything and, felt and the way that you explain things is so, I, I think we go through things and sometimes we just want to hide it. We don't want to tell people, but to tell your story helps others. And I know that you are helping so many people already.
Mm.
It's so beautiful because you really, I reached out to you because you really stood out to me. And so, to see your journey, to watch you, I am so, um, you know, a lot of the things we've done the same too, investing in myself. I also was in Bob Proctor's program, but it wasn't until 2021
Mm-hmm.
and the year program. And boy, that changes you, doesn't it? I can
Very.
tell.
He
And
channeled, I think he did channel 4 times or 3 times for me, Bob. One
wow.
time he showed up in a dream and he said to me, I have to talk to Scott Edwards. I didn't even know who that guy is. And I was in the Napoleon Hill Institute and I asked Scott, I said to him, listen, Bob was telling me that you are intended to write a book about to young people about this material. He became pale and was like, oh my God, how do you know? And I said, well, Bob showed me up in a dream and told me I have to tell you that you have to write the book. I was like, wow, I didn't know.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the other time he showed me like he showed me a police department where he was prospecting, I assume. And he told me he didn't get like for some reason they couldn't get together for coaching, but he asked me to do it for him. And the last time he showed up, he told me you have to tell my wife that I love her. So I said, like I messaged her on Instagram. Might sound weird, but Bob told me in a dream, I have to tell you that he loves you. And I was like, okay.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, but Roberta, this is the thing. This is so interesting when we go through things in life and we sometimes wish, when we look at other people, they don't have the challenge that we have.
Mm.
But what if I assume that your soul needs this challenge now and you can't deal with the other person's challenge? I
Yeah.
want it to be like, the blonde beach babe girl that has nothing, no issues, loving parents and everything.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
it's not what was intended from me, and that's okay. It didn't stop me from going to become a diver or a coach or at all. And I think this is about this term confidence is ridiculous. You don't need confidence. Why? Why would you need confidence? Just be. I thought I have to be dressed up, dolled up in order to be something, but it's always in life about the meaning that you give it. I mean,
Yeah.
like really, it's so fancy or, self-love. Forget the self-love. Can you accept yourself? Self-love is so like fluffy and these parties and you do the dream board. Can you accept yourself? That's more important. Can you really accept who you are? It took me a long time and I'm still working on this.
Mhm.
Long time, I had stuff going on. Inner dialogue is still,
Mhm.
changing, especially, the past 3 months when my father passed away. It woke up some stuff that I didn't even look at yet. You get to know yourself, inner child meditations bring up a lot of things that I didn't know. And that is interesting because as we work on our trauma, it eases the energy on everybody around us and they start to talk. So my mom told me stuff that, for example, she had a third child that she wasn't allowed to have.
Mm.
And I felt always that I had a sister. But, only through my healing, she was able to talk about it. It's like a whole system, it eases. It eases like anything. It's a bit like when somebody's constipated and you infuse some plum juice.
Mm.
So it's the same with personal development. You infuse healing, or let's say a recorrection of ideas, and then the system can, go again. And with my kids, for example, also, they are very, very important messengers. This is what I feel. They can get really quickly to, do I believe in what I say at the moment, what I want to do? They can pinpoint not what my weakness is, but what I'm not accepting yet. And this is why I feel like, self-acceptance is important. Where do I stand now? It's not the self-development in the beginning. I felt like everything is wrong about me. I have to change everything. I have to wake up in the morning at 3 a.m., run on the street like David Goggins and chant like affirmations. And no. So it's not about that at all.
No, you're right. You're right. Oh my gosh. So many of the same things we have been through. I
Yeah.
resonate with you. And that's why, oh girl, it's like you are just waking up. It's like you're just getting started. I
Yeah.
can see that.
Took me a time, but it was in due time. It's anything in due time. When I think today, about, let's say, what we call single,
Right.
God was saving my ass every time something didn't work out, when a guy didn't want me.
Right.
Just heard like a month ago,
Mhm.
and that is actually sad. I had a crush on somebody when he was 17. He was a roofer. He had the most gorgeous eyes. And when you're 17 and your hormones are not developed yet, that's enough to fall in love with somebody. No judgment here, but he fell off the roof and he died.
Oh,
And I just felt so sorry for him. But I also at the same time thank God that I was able to fall in love with him and I'm not his wife. You know what I mean? Like we I I was so mad at God so often the past year,
mhm.
ever since the 7th of October. Like, how could this happen? These attacks in Israel. How could so many bad things happen? And I openly expressed it to God. I'm really mad at you. And he keeps telling me, you have to trust me,
Yeah.
trust me, trust me, trust me. And so um, you can, this is also important. I mean, if spirit is part of you, then you can openly communicate with that spirit. Know about matcha and green tea and meditating and chanting all the time. No, this is a living relationship.
Mhm.
You are entitled to, communicate what goes on. If you're really mad, express it, let it go.
Yeah.
It's important. I learned very quick as a child, number one, not to express myself,
Mhm.
to be overly intellectual and not feel my feelings. But we know feeling is the secret.
Huh? Right.
And I suffocated my emotions so much that my skin had to take it out on me. This is
Mhm.
why atopic dermatitis came up.
Yeah.
This is why overeating came up, because I wasn't allowing myself to express what was on my soul because I had to protect my mom and I was scared of my father. And that is very important because situations can trigger that. And, for example, when we go out later in self-development, we're going to most likely go for a different type of hobby, or we are attracted to different people,
Mhm.
or maybe what we thought is a suited mate won't be a suited mate anymore because we won't speak the same language as before. And I think that is a very good indicator that we let go of stuff. Maybe we won't settle anymore for what we used to settle for. It's a very healthy journey for us. And I think that means accepting yourself. You can just simply say, it's not what I need. I can gracefully let it go. I don't need a guy at the moment. I can be happy at home. It's really beautiful.
I have to say a couple of things. So Bob said, I remember him saying, those that have the biggest obstacles have the biggest opportunities
Mm.
coming. You did not go through all of this for nothing. And I mean, it was to learn and to grow so that you can be this person that can help others.
I hope so. I really.
Yeah.
For me,
Yeah.
I feel it very quickly when something goes on with somebody.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a gift, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And with what did I want to say? That's so funny, just thinking about it. When we had inner circle calls with Bob, and I was just hitting the press button. I didn't think, he was gonna be on the line. I just pushed hand raise button, and he's calling out my name. I almost fell off the chair.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he had me. He was my accountability partner for 3 months. And he was one of the very few people that ever spoke to me like a father, like really like a genuine father figure. And I remember one day he said to me, I just told him, I'm really happy to be a consultant. I had no idea what a consultant means. I just became one, but I had no idea. And he said, "You're going to do well. You're a thinker." And I was like, oh my God. I almost fell off the chair again because I felt like, I didn't see myself there yet. I had these, PGI, they are so stylish and they have the yachts and the jets. And
Mhm.
I didn't see myself there yet. It felt more like learning to swim.
Yeah.
But I was grateful to speak to him.
Yes. Wow. And you've had these dreams. He's appeared to you. Like, I'm telling you, he is rooting for you.
Yeah,
He is definitely
yeah,
there for you. And how beautiful is that?
yeah. I just feel like, I don't know who in your audience needs to hear this, but if you feel like somebody let's say, in your family goes through stuff, or they are abusive, or they are dysfunctional, or they are addicted, then seek your self-help for sure.
Mhm.
What helped me in the beginning was going to Al-Anon, which are like the family members that go through this. If you can't deal with it, then you have to cut contact. I left with 21 my home. I couldn't deal with it anymore. It was too difficult. We had a situation where my brother tried to stab our father, and I was alone with him, so thank God nothing happened. But it has to be okay for you to say you have to put your safety first.
Mhm. Yeah.
And if you feel like, you have to cut contact from family or reduce contact, then do it. Heal yourself, save yourself, for sure. And coaching is really important, but we have to always look at people where they are at the moment. Is it more that people are in survival modes? Then coaching is not going to work. Coaching has to be in a situation where you feel a bit safe. It cannot be like, you feel like you're on the verge, as we say.
Mm.
And I can only, if it brings some kind of, how do you call this one, some ease. It sometimes happens for you and not against you. It's we can always flip perception. We can say, why, and then, everything is so difficult and blah blah blah. I understand that. But I just bless everybody hearing this,
Mhm.
that they can find a way to use perception for them and not against them.
Yeah.
It's really important. I don't see myself as a victim. I had victim mentality for a long time about it. Why me and everything? And no, nobody is a victim. We can choose how we look at this. We really can.
Yes.
And today I'm laughing about it because I say, my father was with bottles and I'm also about bottles. But, in my case, it's a diver's tank. I have to have a big bottle when I go
Right.
diving.
Right. Yes. Yes.
But
Wow.
we can always flip perception.
Yeah. Well, how
Always.
did you get into diving? I have to ask.
So as I love the ocean.
Yeah.
The ocean is the love of my life,
Yeah.
and whales especially. From early childhood, I know that sounds maybe weird, but I feel them.
Mhm.
I feel them. So I started, checking out stuff about marine conservation, and then I felt like, I'm gonna do holidays maybe and work in marine conservation instead of going to a hotel. And so I checked about marine conservation internships where you can work with marine biologists and you get data, like you photograph dorsal fins and flukes and you observe how the herds are going. And so my kids went to holiday. I didn't tell them. And I took the money that I got out from the divorce and I just,
Yeah.
for 1 week to Portugal. And then I was on the boat for field search. And then you observe like dolphins. We had bottlenoses. We had like the beautiful harbor porpoises. We saw hammerheads. And you just observe how many are, how do they move. And you get the data, like you see how they travel, and then you can enforce laws. You see, like you maybe check how many infants do they have? Do they have newborn? And so you fill it out. You photograph them because every dorsal fin has its own shape, and that is like an idea. It's a fingerprint. And so I was doing the internship, and I thought I want to go the year after that, but then lockdown happened.
Mm.
And one day I was thinking about, maybe I do something else in Berlin. And I thought, what could I do now in order to be more of an interest for marine conservation? And I thought, like, diving. That was a hunch, by the way. I was scared to just dive in like a swimming pool. I never did like the jump into the pool. Never. My kids tried to teach me once, much after that. And so I went to the dive shop and I fell in love with the smell of neoprene. That is for me one of the dearest smells. Like that is, oh my God, if I smell like the dive suits, I'm settled. And when I signed up, I became a diver. I first started with theory and then we did like the practical. And I didn't manage to breathe underwater. I got so scared. But he told me then, like on the lake, just lay down in the narrow water, in the hollow water, and look at the fish and get used to breathing through the tank. And so then I was hooked. Oh my God, I love diving. And so, I did some stuff like deep diving, technical stuff about diving, dry suit diving, night diving. I have rescue diver. I'm now a rescue diver since last year. And so, like I love diving because you don't think underwater, you don't talk to anybody. We have only a selected number of signs, and you feel so close to God. You really like when you dive, there is no, you don't feel your weight, you're just floating.
Yeah.
And the way divers communicate with each other is also, like very easygoing.
Mm.
I love diving a lot. I have
Yeah.
all my gear here at home.
Wow. That's really special that you found something like that that you love
A
that
lot,
much.
a lot.
And you faced your fears, you did things that you probably are still shocked that you did.
Yes,
How amazing is that?
yes, and this is if we want to find out what really is for us,
Yeah.
then it's gonna cause us joy.
Mm,
It's not
yes.
something we have to force with an
Right.
affirmation or whatever. It's gonna be an ease and in flow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I was starting crying once in a dive when we were diving in Tenerife. We had a shipwreck dive. I've never been that much down. And the second dive, we saw just, you know, a stingray, we saw a sepia, we saw a swarm of fish, and you're just down there and you're like, you can't help but wonder about this planet.
Mhm.
It's really amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, this is so true. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you
And
for
this is, yeah, and for Bella, this is the thing, you know. As a kid, I thought these things all are not available for me. Also because I didn't know it was East Germany. I mean, I was only 12 when Germany became one again. But just looking back, I see how many blessings God has given me and continues to give me. Yes, for sure.
yeah, gratitude. Gratitude is everything, isn't it?
Yeah,
Finding something.
definitely. And I'm really grateful to talk to you now.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Yes. And I'm going to tell you what, I just have a feeling that some very special person is coming in your life and is going to treat you like the the princess, the queen
Yeah,
that you deserve. I know it.
it's lovely. But most importantly, I want to treat myself like that.
Ooh,
No,
yes.
really,
Yes.
Roberta.
Are you treating yourself like that right now?
But I signed up by a fit. I used to do home workouts. Now, for 1 month now already, I'm doing strength. This is so interesting, Roberta, about self-image. I didn't go in and say, I have to shape my body XYZ. No, 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 no. I said, I want to have a plan for 3 days. I want to be the healthiest and strongest that I can be.
Yeah.
I told them if I could release 14 pounds, lovely. If not, I don't care.
Right.
And I dropped a size in that month.
Oh,
I didn't even do something special. I just ate healthy. And this is what, you know, like this is the self-image. Why would I tell my body you have to be a certain size?
mhm.
Can I allow it to find itself? And, you know, like it was fun. It was joyful. My kids go. And like, you know, the princessy stuff, like I love doing my nails once a month.
Yeah.
Or once a month, if I can, to my hairdresser. I eat healthy. I buy
Yeah.
myself like this blouse was a color I wouldn't have chosen
Yeah.
with like a few months ago. It's self-image. Your taste is gonna change. Like today, my intuition goes into the shop with me. I don't go with my intuition. My intuition goes to shop with me
Yeah.
and tells me try that one on. You know, go for that one. And I think that is interesting because it's an inner guide that will tell us maybe try out something different. My daughter last year bought me a Barbie because she knew that I never grew up. I didn't have access to Barbies. So she bought me a Barbie. She didn't know that I bought myself one too on Amazon. So we
Oh,
two had two Barbies. But that was for inner child. So this is also what I feel like is important when our inner child is asking for something. Grant yourself. I love nutcrackers. My kids are laughing about me because when I see a nutcracker, I can't stop not buying them. So, like, you know, this is really important. If
yes.
it's nutcracker, then do it. If it's an ice cream, do that. If you want a Barbie,
Mhm.
if it's a shop and there's a dress that you never thought of doing it, but for some reason it triggers you, it's a sign you have to get that dress. I'm not talking about red flags by other stuff, but you know, it's
Yeah.
guidance that we can get.
Yeah. Okay. I love this. This
Yeah.
is so good. This is so good, Susanne. This was better. This is better than I could have even imagined. I love this. I haven't been in your energy for what, a couple years now, a year or two, I guess.
Two,
And
2.5, yeah.
oh, oh, this is awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I love the part about the Barbie, and your daughter buying you one. And it's funny because too, I feel like a child now and I
Mhm.
just do whatever. I took a walk the other day and there's a little park with the swings and everything.
Yeah.
And so I got on a swing and this little girl, she was just staring at me. She could not stop staring at me. Like,
Yeah.
why is this grown woman on one of our swings, And I just loved it.
If the inner child is really important, I did last year a meditation and a hypnosis. And when my grandfather showed me a toy that he had when he was 4 or 5 years old, he passed away many years ago from leukemia. But it also showed me stuff about my parents. So, when I was on the funeral, I could see my father more as a child, if that makes sense. You see them different.
Yeah.
Also, when I talk to my mom now, she went through some, and I guide her through all the stuff with, whatever she would want to get closure of. And this is the gift that we have. If we have access to this information, then we can help people. And even if you don't actively share it with other people from word, but your energy can help other
Mhm.
people,
Absolutely.
because energy is speaking, and we don't have to be bold like other people. Just be you in your energy, what you are. I thought, a long time I had this conception I have to totally be different. And no, 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 no. When you have an artist, you have copyright infringement. If God created me
Mhm.
in like my energy,
Mhm.
I can't mess him up by, undoing everything I am. Because
Yeah.
in the end, it's like peacock in a tux. The head is still out. You're gonna be still you, even if you try to be
Mhm.
somebody else. You have to
Yeah.
be you.
Yeah, you do. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Suzanne. That was so beautiful. So, yeah, if guys, listen, I'm gonna put your Suzanne's information
Yeah,
below the podcast. Reach out to her if you are feeling called. You know, I know that you can help so many people just by listening to you, and how you have sorted through your life is so amazing. I can tell you're just getting started. I feel the same. I feel like we're awake, we're ready, and I am cheering you on. I'm supporting you. I'm so happy for you because I just can see that everything is coming exactly as it's supposed to. So thank you.
thank you, Roberta.
Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Oh gosh, this was so good. And yeah, if you want to reach out to me for my coaching as well, please reach out and let's talk. And I like to leave my podcasts, as my grandma used to say, okay, because she didn't like goodbyes. So see you later. So long.